Years and Years is weird. Really, really weird. It's not a very fun show, and it has very limited appeal, and I don't see anyone ever trying anything like it again, and it does have its fair share of problems, but it has been compulsive viewing for me, and I can say this, there is nothing else like it. It is a truly unique experience. Okay, there is that one thing that's a bit like it. For the unfamiliar, Years and Years is the new spec fiction drama series from Russell T Davies, a guy primarily famous for That Thing that you've probably heard of. It takes a look at potential earth-shattering political events and technological developments over the course of the next 15 years or so, and shows it all through the eyes of members of one family as the world changes around them and things get worse and worse. Now, conceptually, I love this, and at its foundation, it's public service broadcasting at its finest. The news cycle that we've been stuck in for a while now is really fucking depressing and stressful, so a relatable family serial drama that actually addresses and incorporates real-world events and looks at potential developments through the eyes of ordinary people like you and me could do a lot of good. Because the world is on fucking fire at the moment, and I find I do want the TV to just hug me sometimes and go, "It's okay, we understand. We feel it too, but we're here for you." That's kind of what I thought I might get out of this when I first saw the trailer, but Years and Years is really not that kind of experience at all, and it was kind of stupid of me to think that because it couldn't be. Not when it's dealing with events like this. It is funny, silly and cheesy in places and sometimes hideously over the top because, you know, Russell here. And I did laugh a fair bit at stuff like the guy who sticks his cock in his robot's mouth, and those moments of levity are fucking vital because of just how heavy Years and Years gets in places. Years and Years is basically a show that goes, hey, you know how everything's shit right now? Well, what if it gets even worse? If you find the current news cycle unnerving like I do because my left tit is so massive that it's the size of a fucking hot air balloon at this point, then you will be familiar with the nihilistic train of thought that Years and Years dramatises in full. What if the worst actually does happen next and the world is on the brink of war, which it looks like it is? Years and Years is like the nightmare what-if fantasy scenario that's been playing out inside of my head for the last few years brought to life, and it's nice knowing that there are similarly concerned people in the world like you, Russell. But the thing is, I don't enjoy going through that nightmare fantasy scenario. It is horrible, painful, and like this paralysing shadow monster of fear with a fucking talon pressing down on my throat. And you're taking that shared nightmare fantasy of the not too distant future and making it into a drama. It's just been incredibly difficult to say to myself, yeah, I'm gonna sit down in my spare time and watch Years and Years. Yeah. Yes, I like me some heavy drama, but reality does appear to be my limit, and Years and Years is as real as it gets. This is very, very different from your common or garden dystopia narrative because it literally does what if Trump goes ahead and nukes someone. It directly addresses and incorporates the real-world news cycle right now and plays about with what might happen next, and it is fucking chillingly familiar, particularly Emma Thompson's Viv Rook character, who it's so blatant who she's modelled on that they might as well have just called her character Nigella Blarage and been done with it. The type of language that Viv Rook uses is horrifyingly familiar, and while her rhetoric is empty, hollow and dangerous, I understood how and why people found it convincing and got swept up in it and went along for the ride. I totally believed the fiction presented to me because it's so familiar. But the thing is, do I actually want to see that play out on TV in full, though? I haven't been this traumatised by most horror movies. The story of Viv Rook's rise to power is fucking sick-makingly heavy because of just how familiar it is. It's just incredibly hard to convince yourself to stay watching because you're not exactly escaping from reality and into a show here because of just how close we are to the potential repercussions from world events that our characters are reacting to. I swear this show is like a 6-hour-long advert for Prozac. It's fucking miserable. And the rest of the country seems to have reached that conclusion as well because it's been getting absolutely slaughtered in terms of viewing figures. No one wants to be more miserable and apprehensive about the state of the world than they already are, and I bet the team behind it realised and expected that before they made it. But the fact no one's watching it doesn't seem to matter. There's something quite punk rock about making a politically charged, aggressively confrontational, big budget drama series while knowing full well that no bastard's going to want to put themselves through it. I mean, fair play to them for that. That's artistic spirit and drive in its purest form there. While I think it's a really impressive show, there is a bedding in period with it though. It gets much better once you've got to know the characters. Russell's strength is his characters, and I found I got more and more into their struggles as I went along and the world around them started to change and things started feeling more and more dangerous. But the first episode was a bit wonky to me because its points are hammered home incredibly hard, far too hard in some places. Since this is Russell here and he's not exactly known for subtlety, a lot of the first episode basically consists of characters just directly screaming the point in your face through monologues and conversations that feel a bit self-aware and like they're almost but not quite breaking the fourth wall, because some of the dialogue's not exactly naturalistic. It basically ends up sounding like, what if EastEnders characters stopped and had occasional philosophical conversations reflecting on the mental shit in the news at the moment? Here Phil, what are you thinking about today? Well Lil, today what I'm thinking about is, what if mankind's reached its peak in rationality and now lives in an existential quandary where nothing is true and yet everything is true at the same time? Like, what if the earth is flat? I mean, I'm not saying it is or it isn't or nothing, but by saying it definitely isn't, aren't I shutting out new ideas when I should be open-minded and tolerant to alternative points of view? Think about it, Lil, think about it! That's basically what it plays like, and alright, a lot of my real-world interactions with people sound like that because I'm a neurotic news junkie and so are most people I talk to on a regular basis, but I do understand that I'm a fucking weirdo obsessed with this shit and not everyone's like that. Russell is definitely tapping into something that lots of us feel when looking at the current news cycle, but I'm just unsure how much appeal an experience like this has to start out with, because as said, miserable, and also how many people would be put off at first by its often all too on-the-nose narrative technique. I mean, I like the show, I think it's really good, but I understand it does have very niche appeal, and it's probably the first time ever that I've thought a show is really good, but I've been praying for it to be over and for the series to have a conclusive ending, which fortunately it does. It does feel like a standalone serial, but iPlayer does threateningly refer to it as Series 1, which throughout weeks 1 to 5 have me thinking, oh fuck, you're not really going to make me watch another series of this, are you, Russell? I think it is important a show like this exists though, and it's making points that need making and telling uncomfortable truths, and it's incredibly confrontational. Because what you got is global developments happening on the screens in the background while the dramatic focus is in the foreground, and the show draws attention to how people don't stop and think about how these things are linked because they got their own lives to lead. They got to deal with financial hardship, unemployment, people cheating on their partners, family conflict, loss of loved ones. But so much of that drama and heartache is a result of complacency. It's a result of refusing to look at the bigger picture and allowing yourself to turn your brain off and opt for easy solutions to complicated problems because I've got my own shit to worry about, alright? What are you blaming me for? But it is all linked. People have bought into this system because they haven't spoken up. It may be hard to hear, but it needs to be said. That speech that Anne Reid's Muriel Lyons gives in episode 6 about this complacency is fucking powerful. The last episode did offer great catharsis because you spent so much of this series in a bleak spiral of misery and it ends by acting as a genuine call to action. And it does offer glimmers of hope, so yeah, I think I would recommend watching Years and Years. If you do start it, then I recommend you definitely persevere to the end, because it is worth it, even if it is quite a painful experience and you'd start finding that you need a strong drink just to get you through one episode of it, because Jesus, that bit where Viv Rook pitches the erstwhiles in episode 5 is so far beyond dark that I just... Just a request, if you're watching this, Russell, could you perhaps make a show about, like, I don't know, a basket of kittens or something next time? Just something a bit easier to digest, you know, because this is a... Okay, we're going to end with some footage of my cat set to silly music. Happy thoughts, everybody. Happy thoughts, keep smiling. Oh god, we're all going to die.